We heard from Scott Frost for about 40 minutes in total this week. What did he say that UCF fans should take? And what are we learning just 1 week into fall camp? Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I am your host, Sean Green. We are now sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. We are so pumped, so excited for FanDuel to be coming on and joining the Charge On family. Listen, I think it's America's number one sportsbook. Everybody knows FanDuel. Everybody uses FanDuel. And for them to kind of partner with us and partner with Believe, we are extremely grateful and truly pumped to have them kind of join the Charge On, a UCF football podcast this season. So want to shout out FanDuel. And listen, right now, if you want to go to FanDuel and try to get a line, right, and bet on UCF, UCF is favored minus 280 to get at least 5 wins. That's been a big topic of conversation recently. Is UCF going to be able to get to a bowl game? Are they going to get 5 wins? If you believe UCF is going to at least get 5 wins, it's minus 280 right now on FanDuel. So I would go head over there, check out all the lines, but we are extremely excited about that. All right. As you guys notice, I'm not in my normal studio. I'm in New York. Got a lot of business stuff that I'm doing, also going up for a wedding. So for the next 2 Charge-Ons, you will see me in a different location. But extremely excited to kind of get away. Still doing work. I'm still working, but it's good to get away in a nice little log cabin or whatever. But with that being said, let's get to why you guys are here, which is to talk about UCF football. And I think the interesting thing about this first week of fall camp, is you're really learning, and I think you're getting a better grasp of what Scott Frost truly does believe. And talked to Scott Monday, if I'm not mistaken, and then he talked again today. He had like an 11-minute interview. It was really cute. He brought his daughter up with him. It was great. But he's kind of one of my biggest pet peeves with Gus. I know we're not talking about Gus, but it always felt like coach speak. It didn't ever feel kind of genuine like what he was saying. It was always the same exact answers. And with Scott, what we've noticed very quickly is he might not give you the answer you want. He might not give you a quarterback starter. He might not tell you which position group has been the most impressive. He might not single anybody out. But what Scott has done is he is extremely, extremely honest. And he's extremely honest about everything he's asked. And one of them is the quarterback situation. And look, we were going to talk about it anyway, because on Monday, it was mentioned by him that we ultimately want to have a quarterback picked out. Like, ultimately, we want that to happen as soon as possible. We want them to be able to get reps with the first team offense. But at the end of the day, nobody has gone out and won it. And he said that in spring. He said at the end of spring that no quarterback, everybody played well, but there was no quarterback that had just gone out and taken the job. And I think, obviously, nobody assumed that there would be one picked this week. But he reiterated that on Monday. And he said, listen, all the guys we feel very confident in, they're all competing extremely hard, and we feel good about any one of them. But we're waiting for one guy to take it, to actually go and just take the job. Well, he talked today, and it was very interesting, because it almost seemed, and I've been on record, if you're a fan of Charge On, you know that I've been very open that says I do think that the quarterback competition is going to go into the season, at least the first couple weeks, if not the first week, because you have to read between the lines. You have to listen to what he says, and every time he says no guy's gone out and won it, I think genuinely it would take a consistent guy to come in and just win every day consistently. And if they didn't do that in spring, if you didn't have a consistent winner for the entire month of spring ball, it makes me question, okay, how is that going to then change into fall camp? So this week we've seen clips come out, and granted, you can't really look too much into the clips. I told you guys, like, we're only really going to get to watch like 4 practices, and not even 4 practices, the first 20, 30 minutes. So you're only seeing a sliver. I know on one of the days you saw, Jakari throw a pick. You saw him throw a pick a couple days. You saw Cam throw a pick. You also saw Cam throw some really good balls. Taven, in the clips that I've seen, I'll be honest, it hasn't been as good as I would have liked or what I saw in spring. I think in spring when I saw Taven Jackson live, I said, okay, by far in my opinion, he is the best quarterback that I have seen on the UCF roster. But the clips I've seen this week, and again, it's practice, up and down days, right? Clips I've seen this week have been make you a little nervous, just a little bit. But again, that's what fall camp is for, right? This is what this is for. It's to throw the guys out there, get better, and ultimately figure out who's going to be your guy. And right now, I think Scott Frost came out and said today, we're nowhere close. He said, I think every single day we have a different quarterback graded as the highest out of that practice. And he said, we're going to grade every play. We're going to grade every snap, because at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. If we want to figure out the guy, we want to be able to grade. Now, I think some can make the argument of, are you thinking too much into it? Or are you grading it too deep? Like, there should be a thing with the eye test, right? Like, who does the eye test best? But at the same time, if you're grading, did he make the right throw on every play? Did he, again, audible to a different thing that was the right move? If you're grading each quarterback that intently, usually you will pick the right one. Usually you'll pick the right one. So I am very intrigued. I'm very intrigued. When he said today, we're nowhere close, and that we've had a different guy graded out every single day as the winner of that day. And again, this is where I think Scott Frost is genuinely, I love his press conferences, and I love when he talks, because he's straight up. He knows what college football fans think. He knows what football fans say. What is the saying? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. And he literally said that on Monday. He talked for 30-something minutes, and he said, I know. The saying is, if you have 2 quarterbacks, usually you have none. In this case, all 3 are good enough to play, and it's about who's going to take the job. And again, he knows that for most people, that will look bad. It looks bad that you can't pick a quarterback. But I'm so glad that he hasn't. At the end of the day, I've said it on the show. I've said it everywhere I've gone or talked about. If Taven Jackson is not the guy that you thought he was, now granted, I give the staff a pass regardless, right? If Taven Jackson does not start game 1, I think there's going to be people like, you just paid this guy a boatload of money to come here, and you're not going to start him week 1. I can understand that. My thing is, I'm giving a pass regardless. If Taven Jackson if he starts and he doesn't pan out well, I'm giving the coaching staff a pass. If he doesn't start week 1, I'm giving the coaching staff a pass. Because ultimately, the way this all went about, UCF, Scott Frost, the staff had to play catch up. They had to play catch up. So they had to identify out of the pool who they believed would be their guy, that they kind of mold. And it was Taven Jackson. And let's be real here. It's not like they had a boatload of options. I know Bo Prabula was one. He visited UCF. He ultimately chose not to come here. But UCF had their guys, and clearly Taven Jackson was one they liked. But if he doesn't perform well, it's not the same situation as the KJ situation. It's nowhere close. This situation, you had very little time. And I think what's good about the situation is Scott Frost even said today, I walk around practice and I'm watching the position groups, and I don't feel like we're deficient in one position group. Usually I'll go and look at a position group and I'm like, I wish we had more there, or I wish we had more there. He goes, I don't feel like we're deficient anywhere. It's more so just about putting the days ahead, getting better, and then going from there. Like wide receivers, that's another thing. Like he's confident in the receivers, but he's like, they have a lot to prove. They have a lot to, they're unproven. He did mention the 3 receivers that kind of were getting the number 1 reps in spring. He mentioned today Marcus Burke, Dwayne Thomas, I think, and DJ Black. So you're kind of starting to, like, this is where I said, if they're ultimately the best, then I want to see them on the field. But my fear is I don't want to see all of the senior or older receivers play because they got reps or they have college reps. I'm getting ahead of myself. The chair I'm in right now is very bad on the back. But quarterbacks. Let's say Cam Fancher is your starter, right? At the end of the day, and I've said this, it is good that the staff, it's good that Coach Frost, it's good that Coach KZ are going through Steve Cooper. It's good they are going through the process and they're not just appointing one guy the job. And I think you'll see, like, players will ultimately decide this job. The coaches will make the choice, and the players will fall behind, of course. But this is the time to show who's the leader. Who is the leader in the clubhouse? And I'm sure right now, all the guys have a different opinion. I'm sure some guys believe it should be Taven. I'm sure some guys believe it should be Jakari. I'm sure other guys believe it should be Cam. But at the end of the day, this is where the competition's... If one guy starts slacking, right? If one guy you could just tell is not putting his all into it, that person's most likely not going to win. So if that person's Taven, ultimately, the coaching staff made the right choice. And if they start Taven, ultimately, and it might not pan out, like whatever decision they make, I think we can all look at it from a perspective of you haven't picked a starter yet. Clearly, all 3 guys haven't done enough to get that job. But I think you can also look at it and say, whoever gets that job, you can feel very confident that that person is going to be good for UCF this year. And if it's not, it's not. And then you can start questioning, do they actually know what they're seeing? Like, especially this year, is the talent there? And you'll know quick. You'll know quick. But I think taking time, listen, if it goes into the season, it goes into the season. You can't put a timeline on this. The minute you put a timeline on it, you'll get a KJ Jefferson experience. And that's what we don't want. We don't want to just appoint somebody and say, oh, you're the guy. We paid you all this money. You're the guy. And it not work out. Until we actually see them truly perform, it's tough. I think Taven's going to be the starter, but ultimately it's up to Taven. It's up to Taven to go win the job. And it does concern me that nobody's gone out and won it. Does concern me. But at the end of the day, it's not, nobody's getting appointed, which is just as good. I want to talk defense really quick. It's not going to be a long episode this week. I think we're going to learn a lot more next week. So it's going to be a lot more in-depth and detailed. I think the defense, everything that we've seen, number one, Antoine Jackson. Listen, we've had our issues with Antoine Jackson last year. I think, and obviously we found out after that he was dealing with a bunch of injuries. Antoine Jackson might be a player this year. Some of the stuff that we've seen out of practice, the one-handed interception was insane. He looks quicker on his feet. He looks like he knows what he's supposed to be doing. And I think I'm really excited to see him, but also just the defense as a whole. Scott Frost mentioned today how, and granted, this is a little coach speaky, obviously, but he goes, listen, our first order of business needs to be to stop the run. Like, first order of business, stop the run. And then we get the luxury of being able to go put pressure on the quarterback, to go send more people. And I think that's important because I think a lot of people, they think we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. And they just assume, oh, they're going to blitz the quarterback. They're just going to send a bunch of guys. And I think that's where Alex Grinch, it's intriguing to know what kind of, we have an idea of what he's going to do. But for Coach Frost to be like, our defensive line needs to be elite and they need to stop the run. And if they don't do that, then we're not going to have the luxury. We're not going to get in a lot of third and long situations where we can send a guy, an extra guy, or blitz the quarterback. We're not going to be able to get that luxury. So I thought that was very interesting to say. I'm intrigued to see how the defensive line is doing. I think I've said, like, in terms of talent, I think the defensive line has a lot of talent. But my fear, and this is why I said with the defensive line, is how much depth do they actually have? I think they do have a good amount of depth. But we're going to have to see it on the field. They're going to have to go prove it that UCF actually has a good defensive line. Do I think they do? Yes. But the concern is that clearly is one of the, it's always, again, the offensive and defensive lines are some of the most vital, they are the most vital positions in football, right? If you don't have a good offensive or defensive line, you're probably not going to be a very good football team. But I think it's very apparent that, especially for this unit, with all the new players, with all the new people that have come in, you almost need your defensive line to be kind of the backbone of your team. Because if they're not, there's a lot of names on the secondary that you do question. And you do, like, is Antoine Jackson going to be the real deal during the season? Are some of the guys like the Bellamy's of the world, the Bells of the world, coming in, are they good enough to kind of hold their own? Well, if you have a good defensive line, if you could stop the run and you have a good defensive line that can get pressure, the secondary being average is not going to hurt that. So I think that's going to be the big question. When will we find that out? Probably week 3 or when our third game. The defensive line is probably going to feast in the first 2 games. By North Carolina, you're really going to see how they stack up. And that's always the question. Then somebody asked about the offensive line. Bullshit. Somebody asked about the offensive line. And again, to Coach Frost's credit, he said, like, we really haven't put the pads on and we haven't been able to really see. There's a confidence in that group. Obviously, I've said I'm very confident that the offensive line is going to be way better than I think what most people expect. I think they'll be better than last year, but that's also because I trust Sean Clark. I trust him implicitly. And I think he's a hell of a coach, and I think he's really going to do numbers on that group. I also believe they did improve in certain areas. I think Carter Miller is going to really help that unit. I think Paul Rubelt having another year under his belt is a huge thing for us. He made some mistakes last year, but I think he just needed the reps. And I think he's going to really improve and shock people this year. So I'm all on the offensive line. And again, at the end of the day, just like I said with the defensive line, we're not going to know if the offensive line is really that good until week 3 or game 3. We're not going to know. And it's not great. You want to kind of get an idea, get a test early. And Jack State, I think everybody just is counting off Jack State. Jack State, if you look at all of the record predictions, they have them at like 10-2 for this year, with one of the losses being UCF. This is not a normal first game where it should just be a layup. Like, you always see those first games where the spread is like 17.5 with a power 4 team playing a G5, and you're like, that's like not that many points. And then they go up and lose. I think you saw with Oklahoma State last season, right? So I know that's getting into week 1 talk, and we're 4 weeks away from that. But at the end of the day, a lot of these issues that were like, we could just push it down the road. And, if we find out week 2 or week 3, unfortunately, you are playing a decently good team in week 1 that could come out and beat you. The reason it'll be tough is they've got a new coach too, right? Like, they lost Rich Rod to West Virginia, so brand new coaching staff coming. But I think that's where you look at it and you say, it's not just this cakewalk, right? You're going to have to go in and have everybody ready. You're going to have, in my opinion, you definitely want to have an idea of who your guy is. Whoever gets announced as the starter for that week doesn't need to say the competition's done. But if you announce who the starter is, you have to say, the competition is still going. This is our starter. And you have to feel confident that at the end of that game, you're going to basically say, he's our guy. But if he goes into Jack State and has a iffy performance, then the competition still goes. And that's what makes you question and be like, is how good of a season is this going to be if we're still going through this process? But I'm happy he is. I love his press conferences. Go check out the press conferences. I'm excited to see more of what he likes, what he's saying, and his honesty. I don't know how many more times we're going to get to talk to him during fall camp. I think at least once a week, if I'm not mistaken. But I think I think there's only 2 more practices that media is going to be able to watch. So there's not going to be a lot of knowing the inside details surrounding the team, given there's not many more opportunities to see them before the first game. All right, everybody. That's going to do it. Thank you so much. Again, download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. There are so many great deals that you can really put your teeth or sink your teeth into before college football season. Make some season bets, prop bets, whatever you want to do. FanDuel is the place to do it. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all you do. We greatly appreciate it. Guys, Meet the Knights drops on Monday. Episode 1. I'm very excited for it. I went on Space Nights this past week and kind of talked about it, and I kind of gave some of those guys a little sneak preview, and I think they were they said really great things about it. So I'm really excited for everybody to see it on Monday, noon. You can watch it whenever, but I will definitely be tweeting it out. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. But go show it some love on Monday, and then we will have a regularly scheduled Charge On Friday. Probably won't be. Yeah, I'll have to do another one of these on the day because it's, again, busy times here at Charge On. But we will make it work, obviously. All right, everybody, that's going to do it. Thank you so much. This has been Charge On. We will see you next week.